The movie begins in an underground base, where military personnel, a small team of scientists, and a large group of civilians take cover from a highly aggressive species. Meanwhile, the world outside struggles with an outbreak of a new strain of rabies, also called mad dog disease. This enhanced form of rabies can infect a person in just 90 seconds and alters their brain and personality to turn them into hyper-violent predators. Patients, known as the infected, present symptoms including heightened aggression, reduced sensitivity to pain, and constant restlessness. This variant compels those infected to kill, leading to the transformation of the world's population into violent hordes of rabid individuals. As the rabies cases continue to grow, scientists and military personnel detain the infected within the base. They regularly interrogate them in order to locate patient 0, whose blood might be the cure to this nightmare. Following this, a team of soldiers brings in an infected person for interrogation and cautiously secures him within a glass cell. We then meet Morgan, a civilian who was once attacked by a rabid infected. However, his blood was resistant against the virus, making him the only human with the ability to communicate with the infected. He became an important part of the research by Dr. Gina Rose, who examines and experiments on the infected. She uses Morgan's unique ability to question the infected, whose growls are merely noise to regular humans. Morgan names the new infected captive Joe Cocker and sets the music before stepping into the cell. Inside, he finds Joe violently trying to break free from his restraints, clearly unable to tolerate the sound. It turns out that the virus alters the brain of an infected in such a way that they react aggressively upon hearing music. Morgan sets the ground rules and continues the interrogation while informing Gina of his findings. It is revealed that Joe is from Minnesota and is among the earliest people to have been infected by the virus. Morgan reveals that he experiences the intense urge to commit violence as a symptom of the infection. However, he has managed to prevent the urge from taking control over him. We're then introduced to Colonel Knox, a military officer in charge of the scientific operations at the base. Knox interrupts the interrogation using a microphone, which leaves Joe agitated. Morgan becomes frustrated and steps out of the cell to allow Joe to calm down. Impatient for answers, Knox orders him to continue the interrogation. Meanwhile, Joe's behavior grows increasingly erratic inside the cell, leading Knox to shoot him in frustration. Gina threatens him to remove him from his command if he oversteps his authority in her laboratory again. Later on, Gina finds Morgan in the bathroom, trying to calm himself down. He then vents his frustration, revealing that Joe was part of a larger group of 250 infected people. Morgan feels the growing pressure, as this is just one of many groups scattered across the country. Gina offers him pills to help relax, but Morgan declines. Instead, he shares the nightmares he continues to have about his wife, Janet. As they talk, Morgan and Gina share how they miss the simple pleasures that once made them feel human. Before long, the two give in to their temptations and make love in the bathroom. Later, Morgan visits the underground cells where the infected are held captive. He stops at one of these cells, and we discover that the person inside is none other than Janet. It turns out that she has also been infected, but Gina is currently treating her with an antidote obtained from Morgan's blood. The next day, the soldiers cautiously bring in another infected, who is named Pete Townsend. Just as they are securing him in a chair, he uses all his strength to break free and attack the soldiers. Without even thinking twice, a scientist named Scooter rushes into the cell to bring Pete under control. Unfortunately, Scooter gets bitten on the arm in the process and is quickly evacuated to the medical room. The team only has a 90-second time frame before the rabies virus takes effect and transforms him into a violent predator. Gina quickly amputates Scooter's arm to prevent the virus from spreading further into his body. He goes into sudden shock, and the team ties him down just as he becomes infected. With no other option to protect them, Knox is forced to shoot him down before he fully transforms into a deadly threat. Later on, Morgan and Gina visit the memorial stone of Scooter's son, who had also lost his life earlier in the outbreak. The following day, Morgan interrogates Pete again and uses loud music as a form of torture. Pete reveals that he is from Minnesota and was infected in October, but refuses to share more. Frustrated over the loss of his friend, Morgan loses his temper and draws his gun to get him talking. Yet, Pete stays silent about patient Zero's identity or whereabouts. Afterward, Morgan and Gina meet with General Pierce in the conference room. They present their findings from interrogating Joe and Pete and reveal that both were infected by another source in Minnesota. They also share their speculation that patient 0 might belong to this early group. Gina then suggests expanding their search in the Minnesota region to locate patient 0, who is crucial to develop a vaccine. However, Knox opposes her suggestion and dismisses her research as just a waste of time and resources. In response, Gina argues that the infected have evolved into a more intelligent and dangerous breed, as shown by their strategic attacks. Ultimately, General Pierce prioritizes the safety of the base and sides with Gina's perspective. Following this, Morgan returns to Janet's cell and leaves the syringe for her. She senses his mixed feelings about her and Gina and confronts him. However, he doesn't confirm or deny her suspicions. Janet goes on to share how she misses the simple human experiences, like shedding tears. Although she warns him to keep his distance due to her infection, Morgan affectionately takes her hand through the bars of the cell. He then reassures her that treatment is working and begs her to not lose hope. Gina draws blood from Morgan once again and shares that they haven't figured out why only his blood is immune to the virus. It is revealed that his resistant blood has shown to reduce the viral levels in the body, slow down infection, and even calming the aggression it causes. Unfortunately, the effect only lasts for 5 minutes, which makes it ineffective as a complete cure. Gina admits the team is still far from developing a vaccine since they haven't located patient 0. She also acknowledges that there's no guarantee about Janet's recovery, leaving Morgan visibly upset. Gina then confesses her love for him, but he doesn't speak a word. It becomes apparent that Morgan is conflicted as he is unable to let go of Janet and is still fixated on bringing her back. Several days later, Gina learns that she is pregnant with Morgan's child. She breaks down in tears, clearly overwhelmed by the cold relationship with him. In a flashback, it's revealed that Morgan and Janet were driving somewhere when they were suddenly attacked and infected. In the meantime, Knox and the soldiers bring their fallen comrades to the base's crematorium to pay their respects. Together, they honor these men who tragically lost their lives during the outbreak. Suddenly, one of these infected men jumps up and attacks the soldiers. Luckily, Knox narrowly avoids the attack and grabs his gun to cautiously locate the attacker. It's revealed that this infected had disguised himself as a dead soldier to infiltrate the base. As the alarm sets off throughout the facility, the other soldiers rush into the crematorium to find Knox under attack. Just as he's about to get bitten and infected, Morgan arrives in time to rescue him. Following this, Knox aims his gun at the infected, who surprisingly surrenders and asks to speak with Morgan alone. He is taken to the glass cell for interrogation, and Morgan initiates his usual tactic of playing loud music to provoke the man. Strangely, the music has no effect on him. In fact, he seems to enjoy it, unlike the other infected people. He also behaves like a regular human and even goes as far as lighting up a cigarette from his pocket. Gina reveals that this man had a campus ID on him, revealing that he was a university professor. The entire team watches in surprise as his behavior defies their expectations of typical infected. As Morgan steps into the cell for interrogation, he names the new infected the Professor. During their conversation, the professor reveals that he was actively looking for Morgan, who is apparently quite popular among the infected. When questioned about his resistance to the music, the professor calmly states that each infected is unique, much like the uninfected humans. He then points out Morgan's own uniqueness, as the virus altered him enough to enable communication with the infected despite being bitten. Furthermore, the professor argues that the infected are a more evolved species compared to ordinary humans. Continuing the interrogation, he recounts how he was infected. It turns out that he was lecturing at the university when a horde of infected burst into the classroom and started attacking everyone. In the chaos, he was bitten by a student while trying to flee the university. Upon returning home, he desperately fought against the urge to harm his family. However, the virus raging within him drove him to attack and devour his own wife and even his little daughter. Morgan criticizes him as an animal for his actions, but the professor simply asserts that the infected have risen above the limitations of humanity. He also dismisses the concept of a patient 0 and goes on a rant against the government instead. Having had enough, Morgan loses his temper and punches him before storming out of the cell. Out of the blue, Morgan begins to suspect that the professor might be transmitting a signal to other infected. However, He finds no evidence of such activity upon investigation. Following his intuition, he hurries to the underground cells to confront Pete. He, in turn, tries to take his own life upon realizing that Morgan has uncovered their plan. As expected, Morgan discovers a transmitter hidden within Pete's chest. This reveals that not only are the infected becoming more intelligent, but they are also aware of the operation. It becomes evident that they had set up this trap to learn the location of the base. After retrieving the transmitter, Morgan rushes to General Pierce and presents his findings. He then immediately orders a full lockdown given the severity of the situation. Unfortunately, the infected manage to infiltrate the base and viciously attack everyone in sight. General Pierce observes the chaos from the control room and orders the military to open fire. However, the infected continue their killing spree. In the living quarters, the team finds themselves pursued by the infected. Knox takes charge and leads Gina towards a potential escape route. He then shoots down General Pierce in an attempt to buy them time and slow down the infected long enough for them to escape into the elevator. Gina is left horrified by his actions, although he claims that he sacrificed their commander for their survival. She then seizes the gun from Knox and insists on returning to the lab to retrieve her samples. As he tries to reason with her, Gina threatens him to stand back and let her leave. In the struggle, the gun accidentally sets off and strikes Knox directly in the chest. In the meantime, Morgan reunites with Janet, and together they make their escape. Surprisingly, she shows positive improvement due to the treatment and shows no signs of aggression towards him. Along the way, they run into Gina, who warns Morgan about the temporary nature of the treatment's effects. Despite the risks, Morgan insists on not leaving Janet behind and convinces Gina that she is showing signs of recovery. Together, they hurriedly make their way to the lab to retrieve the vital samples before taking another escape route. As the trio crawl through the air vent, they find an infected lab rat in front of them, with no room to turn back. As it leaps toward them, Janet steps up to protect them. Impressively, she kills the rat with her bare hands before it can harm anyone. Just as they reach the parking lot, the professor confronts them. He reveals his true intentions, claiming that he came to the base to kill Morgan. Shockingly, it is revealed that Morgan is the patient zero for the infected, and they believe he is a threat to their survival. A fierce battle erupts between the two men, but Morgan ultimately gains the upper hand. He then impales both himself and the professor on a nearby pipe to put an end to the threat. In his final moments, the professor lets out a roar and summons his packs of infected to attack. The three of them hastily make their escape, with Janet deciding to stay behind to buy time for Morgan and Gina to escape. Before parting ways, Janet reveals that she sensed that Gina is pregnant with his child. She urges Morgan to leave her behind and protect Gina and the unborn baby instead. Reluctantly, they escape through the tunnel into the woods, where he eventually finds his motorbike stashed away. The movie comes to an end as Morgan and Gina speed through the forest, while the infected continue to pursue them from a distance. Thanks for watching. Did you enjoy the movie? Share your thoughts in the comments and make sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you never miss out on our new exciting videos.